The verse of the day is 2 Corinthians 1:17 through 19, and it says, "You may be asking why I changed my plan. Do you think I make my plans carelessly? Do you think I am like the people of the world who say yes when they really mean no? As surely as God is faithful, our word to you does not waver between yes and no. For Jesus Christ, the Son of God, does not waver between yes and no. He is the one whom Silas, Timothy, and I preach to you, and as God's ultimate yes, he always does what he says." The title of today's portion of scripture is called Paul's Change of Plans. And to give a little context, Paul had planned to visit the Corinthian people again, but his plans changed and they were giving him a hard time about that. They were trying to paint him in a light that looked like he was flaky or wasn't a man of his word or didn't have integrity. And Paul is communicating through today's verse that his change of plans came from God, and that God isn't a God of saying yes when he means no or no when he means yes, that his yes is always yes. I think today's verse is really important to read because it highlights that us as human beings make plans that seem good, right? But not everything good is always God's plan. And so his intentions were to visit the people of Corinth twice, but God said, "You're not going a second time." And it's our ability to pay attention to God's change of plans that makes all the difference in our obedience, in our ability to walk out what God is saying. Because I think so often if we think it's just a good thing, that it's always a God thing, but that's not always the case. And God knows so much more than we do, which is why it's so important that we're spirit-led, because even though something might seem good, it might not be the direction God is leading you. Or just because you visited once and it was good does not mean that's what you should be doing again. I also think it highlights the importance of asking God. And something I'm transparently trying to work on is, rather than always saying yes because it seems like a good thing, is having my filter be, "Lord, is this what you want me to say yes to?" Or saying, "Hey, let me get back to you. God, do you want me to say yes here?" Because the more we go through God for our yeses and our nos, the more we can stay true to that decision. Because so often we are led by our feelings. We say yes and then we don't feel like it later. We say no and then we don't feel like it when it comes down to it, or our feelings get the best of us. When we want to say no, we say yes, and it causes this conflict in our spirit and in relationships, and when we make plans, and in our trust in ourselves. There's so much more that happens when we aren't men and women of our word than I think we understand. And it reminds me of Matthew 5:37. This is one of my favorite verses because I've seen the power of this verse so many times in my life, and it's no coincidence that I'm actually still walking out learning this verse as of right now. Verse 37 says, "Just say a simple yes I will or no I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one." It seems like it could be a little dramatic, right? Like, oh, anything beyond yes or no is from the evil one. But when I reflect on any time in my life where my yes wasn't really yes or my no wasn't no, or I was clear on that being my decision, and then when it came down to it, my feelings changed my mind, rather than pushing past our feelings and choosing to have faith in what we decided through God rather than what our feelings are telling us. When it comes to following God's lead and having trust in our ability to follow God's lead, we have to walk out this kind of a verse. Otherwise, we will never have confidence that we are following God's lead if our yes is not yes and our no is not no, because we're just swaying with the wind. We're just following our feelings. We're a slave to what we feel like, or the opinion of man. Because if we say yes when we mean no, why? Asking ourselves, what is behind that? Is it disappointing people? Is it fear of rejection? Is it caring what people think? Is it wanting to follow an urge or desire, or meeting your own needs? And so all of these things are linked to a root issue. And if we go to God first and we're like, "Okay, God, do you want me to say yes or no? Is this a yes in my life or a no in my life?" And if I'm strong to follow it out, no matter how I feel, you're building trust in your ability to have self-control, to have your back, to follow God's lead, to fear God over your feelings, to fear God over man. And I think in today's verse, it's highlighting a version of fear of man. And Paul is saying, hey, this wasn't my decision. This was something God led me to do. God changed my plans, and I'm going to be faithful to follow the shift in plans no matter what people have to say about it. No matter if people are going to think that my integrity is in question, or if I'm not a man of my word, or if they get disappointed. I have to choose fear of God over disappointing people. I've shared this before, but one of the reasons why I fell into depression a few times was because I had a hard time being a woman of my word, was because of a verse like Matthew 5:37, where my yes wasn't yes and my no wasn't no. And I had this people-pleasing grip on me where I would be around people and want to please them, and then go home and really not want to do the things that I said, or be contradictory or cancel last minute. And then it communicated to myself that I can't say what's true to me or true for God in me around people. And so you feel depressed because you feel stuck in your ability to communicate clearly, communicate directly, no matter what they have to say, no matter what disappointment they feel. And so God reminded me of Matthew 5:37 and said, I need your yes to be yes and your no to be no, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter what the person feels and what your feelings are telling you, because that's the only way you're going to feel capable to build trust in yourself to follow my lead. Because if I am constantly changing my decision and breaking my word, how the heck am I ever going to feel confident to follow what God says? Because I'm always going to be breaking it. I'm like, God, do you want me to do this? And then I cancel, and then I feel unable to follow what God is calling me to do. It takes you down this rabbit hole of condemnation and lack of trust and depression, and it actually hurts your relationships as well, because if your yes is not yes and your no is not no, then how can you build trust with your relationships? And so it goes back to, my yes has to be yes. I need to be a man or a woman of my word in order for me to feel capable to follow what God is telling me. In order for me to have fear of God over fear of man, I have to start with how I communicate, because how we communicate is how we think. It starts in our thoughts. And so if we are communicating contradictory things and our actions are confusing and aren't lining up with what we say, then it's a thought problem. It's, what are we believing? It's, do I have confidence in what I think? And do I have more faith in God over man's opinion? This is something we all need to grow in, and something I constantly need to grow in is, Lord, help me to not make other people's feelings my responsibility, and to know that yes, I'm called to love well and to love my neighbor as myself, but I need to have God be at the top over the opinion of man. And so a verse like today is very convicting for me and makes me want to be a woman of my word, and be like, Lord, help me to be a woman of my word. Help me to not change my decision based off my feelings. Help my yes to be yes. And give me the courage and the strength to walk it out no matter how I feel when it comes down to it. Okay?